Let's get this party started!
He's shining a light in the dark corners of our media.
You are fake news.
Our government.
Handling of classified documents.
And our culture.
Don't trust anyone.
It's common sense amidst chaos.
Let's go.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome.
Here's your host, Ike Wingate.
Hello, my friends. Welcome to the show. It is great to have you with us. Today, as the title of today's program, Trump brings America back. In a primetime address, 18 minutes long, on Wednesday night, the president laid out the successes of his second administration. He was quick by Trump standards. He was energetic. And he is not allowing a vacuum to exist for Democrats to rewrite history regarding their word affordability. He is taking the fight straight to the conversation nationally and leveraging the media in the process and doing so with a primetime address. And I thought the strategy was brilliant in that regard, because the liberal media is not going to give you anything. They are going to do nothing but be exceptionally critical in a way that they never were of the Biden administration. I mean, our inflation was at 9+%, prices out of control, and supply chain totally jacked because of the incompetence of Pete Buttigieg, who is on, I don't know, paternity, maternity leave, whatever you want to call it there. And so this was setting the record straight. And so we're going to talk a bit about that, about the president's speech. The House has passed some various laws that we're going to look at. It's interesting, the things that seem like common sense that Democrats in the House are voting against. We will expose that. Plus some really bad polling for Democrats right now. Despite what the media is telling you, the polling doesn't lie. And so we're going to get into some of that. It really spells bad news right now for the Democrat Party. 2026 is shaping up to be a very interesting year politically. I mean, historically, the midterms don't go for the incumbent's party. I really hope that the trend in history is bucked this next fall, because we don't want to deal with nonstop impeachments and, impediments to the agenda, which is, again, another reason why in the time that is left in this session in 2026, Republicans in Congress have to get their act together. They have to eliminate this blue slip bullcrap to get the right judges and U.S. attorneys in place. And they also, I think, need to eliminate the filibuster and start codifying Trump's agenda. The executive orders he has laid out, this is what needs to be done, and you need to pass laws that put these things on the book long term. But I really, really do believe there are a lot of saboteurs in the Senate, specifically on the Republican side. So we'll look at some of this polling. Dan Bongino is out, announcing that he is done as deputy director of the FBI. And did you know that it is completely legal to blow up boats, drug boats? And guess who wrote the law? Chuck Schumer. So we will show you that. And then we'll be joined in the second hour from Amy Robbins. She is the CEO of Alexo Athletica, which is activewear that allows you to conceal your firearm. But she's going to talk to us specifically about these EIDL loans. Do you know what an EIDL loan is? EIDL. It stands for Economic Injury Disaster Loans. It's a program that is sponsored and funded through the SBA, the Small Business Administration, and a lot of companies had to take out these EIDL loans during COVID And Amy is out there, I think probably the only voice out there, at least so far, that's talking about the benefits to our economy that would result from idle loan forgiveness. And so we push back on, loan forgiveness for students, student loan forgiveness. What makes this different? We will talk to her about that coming up. Plus, Candace Owens and her lies continue to be exposed. I've told you she's done. I mean, she's cooked. Her credibility is shot, and as time goes on and more truth comes out, especially during the trial, which I'm hearing now is going to start in May of next year, but especially during the trial, we are going to see the truth exposed, and then therefore Candace's lies also exposed. And Pam, one of our great viewers, she's in the Candace camp. She was disagreeing with me in the chat the other day. She sent me some stories via private message, and I looked at those. I watched the videos, and then I responded to her with how that was not evidence of anything. And I sent her some videos as well regarding the ballistics analysis that has been done by a ballistics expert. And basically, his analysis is pointing to all of these other people on the internet that say there's no way this is possible or that is possible, but they're not doing a true scientific test. And from his experience of testing bullets and ballistics testing, points out there are so many variables that without all of the exact data, there is no way at this point to make any definitive statement. And he lays out a good case in that regard. And so I have played part of that or shown you, but it's Phoenix Ammunition. It's worth checking out. So we will talk more about that. As far as Candace Owens, she went on Piers Morgan, and she's, to me, if you are able to analyze body language and speech, none of what she's saying is truthful as far as any of these big revelations, all right? And also the battle against Islam rages on. More and more, we are seeing evidence of radical Islam and the danger that comes from it. So we will talk more about that. There's actually a Sharia-free caucus now in the House that's been formed. Sharia-free. Now, Chip Roy, of course, is in Texas, and that's where they've had a lot of problems with these sort of Muslim communities, and we are going to talk about that coming up as well. So stay with us, help us out in the algorithm, give us a thumbs up, repost this broadcast, and if you're watching on X, heart the post and repost as well. Now, I want to point this out as we get going regarding President Trump's speech last night. Prior to the speech, there was a lot of people speculating as to what we were going to see on Wednesday night. And, this from Tucker Carlson. He joined Judge Napolitano talking about what he was hearing as far as what the president was actually going to talk about. There was speculation that he was going to announce that we're going to war with Venezuela. We didn't hear anything of the sort. But here was the great prediction, the great inside info prior to the speech from Tucker Carlson.
Is Trump going to start a war in Venezuela?
I don't know. I don't know when this program airs, the one that we're on right now. This thing's maybe live.
We're live now, and then
okay.
It'll be posted immediately. So
so my sense is, I don't know the answer. I've certainly been on the phone a lot about it. I have no power. I'm a podcaster, but I'm very interested. And so here's what I know so far, which is that members of Congress were briefed yesterday that a war is coming, and it'll be announced in the address to the nation tonight at 9:00 by the president. Who knows, by the way, if that will actually happen? I don't know. and I never want to overstate what I know, which is pretty limited in general.
Okay, so he had people from Congress telling him that President Trump was going to announce in his speech Wednesday night that war was coming. Now, he sort of couched it as, well, I don't know if that's going to happen or not, sort of the standard disclaimer, but that did not happen. And so I just show you this as a lesson in some of these people out there that are predicting this or predicting that or telling you emphatically they know this or they know that, when in fact they don't. And I'm not saying Tucker Carlson was saying, I know this for a fact, because he was adding his guardrails to that with his disclaimers. But who is telling him that? Who's out there saying these kind of things? And so you have to remember to be skeptical of these things that people tell you that they're getting from insiders. So many times it's just not true. All right. Moment from last, the speech on Wednesday night. Let me see here. I'm going to do some reconfiguring of my screen. It's acting all weird. But last night, the president talked about the drug prices, right? He talked about the drug prices. He talked about the pharmaceutical companies and exactly how, they don't like him. And this was, let me get this on the screen here. Can we do that? Now, why is it doing that? This doesn't make any sense. All right, let's go ahead and play the clip. And then maybe I can get this fixed. Yeah, I can't play it. Okay, stand by, friends. And so I move it over here and it's fine. Why is that? Okay. All right. I'm doing what no politician of either party has done regarding drug prices. Take a look.
What no politician of either party has ever done, standing up to the special interest to dramatically reduce the price of prescription drugs. I negotiated directly with the drug companies and foreign nations, which were taking advantage of our country for many decades, to slash prices on drugs and pharmaceuticals by as much as 400, 500, and even 600%. In other words, your drug costs will be plummeting downward. And I used the threat of tariffs to get foreign countries who would never have done it to pay the cost of this giant dollar reduction. They stopped ripping us off, and it began as of 4 days ago. There has never been anything like this in the history of our country. Drugs have only gone up, but now they'll be going down by numbers never conceived possible. It's called most favored nation, and no president has ever had the courage or ability to get this done until now. The first of these unprecedented price reductions will be available starting in January through a new website, trumprx.gov. And these big price cuts will greatly reduce the cost of health care. In addition,
so Trump's made some enemies in the insurance industry, but I thought this part was one of the best parts of the speech, just laying out, hey, look, this is about the American people. President Trump also just recently reclassifying marijuana as a class 2 substance, not a class 1 substance. And so that is a late development. And of course, we're seeing the plane crash from NASCAR driver Greg Biffle. It appears they took off, loud noise happened, they circled back to land, and they crashed, and all 5 people on board were killed. All right, back to this speech. Of course, President Trump, was brief. He didn't have the audience that he's used to. He had to really, his pace was really fast. That's a hard speech to give, actually, to keep that kind of pace for 18 minutes straight. And whoever was managing the audio at the White House, they need to be fired, because the microphone level was way too high and the president was distorted at times. And so they weren't accounting for President Trump's energy. So, okay, let's talk about more on the subject of healthcare. Speaker Johnson confirmed the GOP healthcare bill, which passed this week, gives people more options, more flexibility in their healthcare, and the transparency. So let's see what Speaker Mike Johnson had to say about that.
Bill that will bring down the cost of healthcare. The Lower Premiums for All Americans Act does exactly what the title suggests. It will reduce premiums for all Americans by, on average, at least 11% overall. And that's just the beginning. There will be much more to come, more ideas in the first part of next year to bring down the cost of healthcare. And what the bill did, in addition to that tonight, is it increases the quality of care, the access to care. It gives persons more options, more flexibility in their healthcare, and also it adds transparency. We had the PBM, Pharmacy Benefit Manager transparency piece to it as well. Now contrast that with the Democrats' COVID-era subsidy that they wanted to extend. That would only impact 7% of Americans. The bill we just passed impacts 100% of Americans. Their version would impact 7% of Americans, and it would cost taxpayers $350 billion. That is not the way to reduce the cost of healthcare. The Democrats do not want a solution they just demonstrated because they voted against this bill. They want an issue for the election. It is based on a false narrative. The Democrats broke America's healthcare system. When they gave us the ACA, the Unaffordable Care Act, 15 years ago, they promised that premiums would come down, that access would increase, and quality of healthcare would increase. None of that happened because it's a flawed system. Their response right now is to subsidize and continue to shovel taxpayer dollars onto a broken system. We say enough is enough. The Republican Party is the party that is bringing the ideas forward to fix this crisis and fix this problem for everyone. It is a serious problem. We took a big step tonight to do that. We hope that this gets signed into law quickly because it will have the desired effect. We hope the Senate can get this done in short order.
I doubt they do because they don't seem to be able to get anything together in short order. But 11%, okay, he says it's just the start. I would argue it needs to be more like 40% reduction. But we will see. Correction on marijuana. President Trump reclassifies marijuana as a Schedule III drug. My apologies there. Okay, so this obviously healthcare, is an issue, or I should say medical care. Someone in the chat is pointing out to, let's see, Timothy says health insurance does not provide health care. They're just the gatekeepers who say who gets healthcare. I mean, the insurance companies are now in this place where they are dictating what doctors can and cannot do, which is totally backwards. Literally telling them, no, you can't do this. If this person needs this treatment, they need to come back at least 2 days later. So it doesn't make any sense that insurance companies are able to dictate the health regimen or they're able to dictate the doctor's orders. So Timothy's exactly right. Now, certainly we have a health care or health issue in our country with the obesity and the nasty processed foods, etc. And one could argue that are we treating the problem or the symptom of the problem? John says that's what Obamacare caused, and that's exactly right. That is due to Obamacare. I'm not seeing the comment show on the screen. Okay, there it is. I can't see it on my monitor, but anyway. Yeah, so when you subsidize from the government, you drive up the cost. And you give these insurance companies way too much power. And so it needs a major overhaul. You're going to have this spending battle erupt again at the countdown toward the end of January, because that's when the funding expires again for the government. So we're going to potentially have another shutdown potentially. And these subsidies are a part of that. Now, more info out of the House. The U.S. House passed legislation criminalizing transgender sex transition surgeries for minors. Okay. They criminalized the people that perform these surgeries, these transgender surgeries on minors. 207 Democrats voted against this. Would seem like common sense for the health of our youth.
The yeas are 216, the nays are 211. The bill is passed without objection. The motion to reconsider is laid on the table.
Okay. So this again is another example that the Democrats, I think this is evil to defend transgender surgeries for minors. If you are 18 or over and you want to do this and you're going to pay for it, not taxpayer money, that's your own business. Now, don't expect the rest of society to bend toward you entering different restrooms or locker rooms. But if you're an adult and you want to do that, that's your business. But as a minor, it's just reckless. It's reckless to allow minors to do that. And people performing these surgeries, according to the House, are now violating the law. Now, obviously, it would have to be signed or passed by the Senate and then signed into law by the president. Now, CNN is dropping devastating news for Democrats. Democrats, in the minds of the American public, are lower than the Dead Sea. And I'm sure this greatly pains CNN to have to air this segment.
How are voters feeling about Democrats right now?
Yeah, I mean, Democrats in the minds of the American public are lower than the Dead Sea. What are we talking about here? Well, let's take a look. The net approval rating for Democrats in Congress, you said it, Kate Baldwin, the lowest ever. Look at this. Overall, they are 55 points underwater. Their approval rating is south of 20%. It's even worse when you look at independents. Look at this. Negative 61 points. That means that their approval rating is 61 points lower than their disapproval rating. Quinnipiac has been polling this question for the better part of the 21st century. They have never found Democrats, at least those in Congress, in worse shape than they are right now.
How are voters?
Okay, well, that makes sense, right? And so Democrats, I mean, I just don't think this is just an automatic for the midterms at this point. Democrats with a whopping 18% approval rating in this other poll, and this was what was discussed about it on CNN.
This could be the greatest speech for Democrats to win the midterms ever if he does any of those things.
Well, they need something because you got an 18% approval rating right now. So whatever you can get, I would advise you to try to get it.
We'll take it.
Listen, he spent a lot of last year on foreign affairs to great success. But now we're moving into an election year. And the first line, I inherited a mess and I am fixing it, reminding people that we were in a deep hole. And that's why he got elected in the first place. He is going to have to ask for some forbearance from the American people. But you can tell he does have a story to tell here. Some of it is in the big, beautiful bill. That is the centerpiece of his domestic policy agenda. The tax cuts are good. And he does have villains here. The health insurance companies are a good villain. The Democrats being at an 18% approval rating, that's a good villain. And so when you're going into an election, I think it's got two jobs. One, sell what you're doing. But two, you got to post up against the alternative. The American people just rejected the alternative a year ago. And now he needs them to reject the alternative again. So.
All right. So Scott Jennings obviously bringing the truth stick there on CNN once again.
This could be the greatest.
And when you look at the accomplishments for the president in this first year, it's exactly right that he inherited a mess. Now that you can only play that line or use that line for so long. But you can't expect someone to fix. You can't expect someone to reconfigure everything in a year and have it already resulting in more money in your pocket. That's unrealistic. But I understand people have short attention spans and high expectations, and the expectation comes with a very what's the term where instant gratification. That's what people want, because that's what people get most times throughout their day. Instant gratification in one way or another. We're not a patient society by any means, and so that's only going to play for so long. However, President Trump has reconfigured this economy in the correct way possible. He spent, I would say, the entire first year cleaning up messes that affect us here financially and from a security standpoint. So he's cleaning up these conflicts. He is out on a tour getting investment into the U.S. He's applying tariffs that are leveling the playing field. And again, all of these things have to happen. It's a domino effect. It's a ripple effect. President Trump could have started in the place of tickling our ears and getting cheap wins and getting stimulus checks and expanding the government with more federal jobs and things like that. But he didn't do that. He looked at it holistically from the long-term perspective, and he's laid the groundwork to be able to build a strong economy. But that does take time, and he's done it, not only with the tax cuts and the lower gas prices. There are other things to do, but when you have tax cuts and lower gas prices, those are all ripple effect changes, and that is a positive thing. Then you have the investment coming in and the leveling the playing field on the trade, and then you have the manufacturing incentives and the growth incentives here in the U.S., and these are all things that, as time goes on, this is a flywheel. And you can't stop a flywheel quickly. It takes a while, and then it takes a while to get it going. But once it picks up speed, it just gets faster and faster and faster. And that's the way the economy works, and it will become stronger and stronger and stronger. So bet big on 2026. But President Trump did it the right way. And we're already seeing the positive effects. Harvard professor of economics, Ken Rogoff, talking about November inflation that just came out today, and it has cooled even more.
I mean, I was surprised. It was a better number than anyone was expecting. Look, inflation's been very high. It's stayed high. It has not been coming down. But, people were expecting it to be above 3%. It was well below 3%. I mean, I think the president will take this as good news. The investors will think that interest rates will get cut more. So, it was a positive news. There's no other way to spin it.
Absolutely.
I mean, I was surprised.
There's no other way to spin it. It's good news. Even in the shutdown, we were expecting some of these numbers to not be so good, but inflation has cooled even more. I mean, 3% inflation is historically is not bad at all. It's a good number, but the fact that it's even lower than that is just icing on the cake. But, that's not going to stop the Democrats from their revisionist history, rewriting what happened. Jen Psaki thinks you're too stupid to see through her fake gas prices fact check. That's what Town Hall says. She claims President Trump announced that he lowered gas prices to an average of $1.99 a gallon. He never said that. In some places, it is that low.
Trump also claimed that he's brought gas prices down to $1.99 a gallon. The national average for a gallon of gasoline was $3.11 when Trump took office. The national average today per AAA is $2.91. That is just a little taste and flavor, and I'm sure you all have your own lists at home.
On day one, I declared a national energy emergency. Gasoline is now under $2.50 a gallon in much of the country. In some states, it, by the way, just hit $1.99 a gallon.
Okay, so he never said that $1.99 was the national average. He said in some places. Okay, so he's saying 250. Jen Psaki says 291. And so where exactly the 250 is coming from, I don't know, because some of these numbers out here are saying $2.90, $2.90. It depends on where exactly you are getting your info, because AAA has it around 289, 286 for Gas Buddy. And so as far as being able to find exactly 250, but President Trump never said $1.99 is the average gas price, right? And some of these numbers are in arrears. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of these numbers are old, and so President Trump may have more updated numbers. And so, yeah, I mean, E85, which is the ethanol blend or whatever, is at $2.29 a gallon, as far as the national average. And so, anyway, that's according to gas price. That's AAA with that. So, anyway, it was selective editing there from Jen Psaki. President Trump never said that was,
by the way, just hit
the national average. Okay. Let's see. And so, I mean, here's the thing about these gas price averages. Unfortunately, it includes states where it's astronomical, right? So if you look at, let's say, California, it's $4.33, which is crazy. If you look in New York, it's $3. Pennsylvania, $3.12. But you get into some of these other states, and you really do have gas prices that are hitting in some places. And we're talking about averages, but it is in some places hitting under $2. We've seen it. Somebody there in the chat, Scott, says it's $2.59 where he lives, wherever that is. So depending on where you live, but unfortunately, you have to take the national average as your measurement. But these states like California have a bazillion taxes added on top of the gas price. And so these crazy blue states mess with your average. It's really not applicable to, much of the rest of the country. Okay. And so you're seeing it, 278 in Michigan, 275 in Virginia, etc. So it's the bottom line is gas prices are coming way down. And as President Trump said, they will come down even further once they are able to replenish the strategic oil reserve, which was gutted by President Biden in an effort to try to artificially lower gas prices. So we're having to restock that, which is affecting the supply. Once that's done, it will open up more of the supply, which will then again drive the price down. Okay. Now, here's something interesting. Do I blame them? Not really, but it's really telling as to where the state of Democrat affairs are. The DNC, the Democrat National Committee, according to the New York Times, has scrapped their report on what went wrong in 2024. They had solicited an autopsy. They ordered an autopsy months ago. What went wrong in 2024? And guess what? They scrapped it. They believe the release of it would be counterproductive for the party. You think so? I think so. And so this is telling because they know what's in it and they're like, no way, get rid of it. Get rid of it. I'll tell you what went wrong. You had a horrible candidate and you were running on these 90-10 issues like women competing in men's sports and other things like that. And it wasn't resonating. And the American people lost all hope that the Democrats could do anything about the economy. And 4 years of Biden, he never made any improvements like we've seen just in the last year. And that's because there's a lot of cleanup going on. But once the cleanup's done and the rebuilding happens, that's when you're going to get really, really pleased and happy. Dan Bongino is leaving the FBI after just short of a year. He joined in January. Well, I don't know that he was actually confirmed till maybe February, March, but he's leaving this January. He put this out on a X post on Wednesday saying, I want to thank President Trump, Attorney General Bondi, and Director Patel for the opportunity to serve with purpose. Most importantly, I want to thank you, my fellow Americans, for the privilege to serve you. God bless America and all those who defend her. Well, this was rumored to be happening. Obviously, Dan Bongino left a pretty lucrative career as a podcaster and running his own company. He's been living in DC. His wife's been living in Florida. It's taken its toll. President Trump was asked about it, and here's what he said.
Dan did a great job. I think he wants to go back to his show.
Dan did a great job. I think he wanted to go back to his show, which is understandable. I was hoping that Dan would stay, maybe 2 years. I understand 4 years is a long time for that. And could it be there's some frustration that Dan Bongino has experienced inside of this FBI and DOJ? Yeah, absolutely. There probably is. And, if I were to state, I would think the weakest links or maybe the weakest people in the cabinet so far, it probably would be Pam Bondi, and not in the cabinet, but Kash Patel. And I don't mean that they're bad people. I just mean that they've botched a few things, or it hasn't happened the way, or they've become some of the things they're involved in have become a distraction, like Kash Patel's girlfriend and the travel and stuff like that. Even though, he has to travel by private air travel, private jet, because of security. And that's just been something that's been done since 2010. But it's still, the optics haven't been great, so it's created some distractions. And, when you're in the job, it's one thing. But they've also done some amazing things in the FBI. I mean, as far as getting to the bottom of several things. The pipe bomber was one of those things, even though some people say it's a patsy setup. Pam Bondi and the Epstein files, not done in the best way. So if I'm being overly critical, I would say it's probably one of the more difficult jobs to be in as deputy director of the FBI. And that's just from the outside looking in. That's just my perception. I could be totally wrong, but it's not completely surprising that Dan Bongino in the slow process of the bureaucracy just decided, forget this. FBI Director Kash Patel had this to say: Dan's the best partner I could have asked for in helping restore this FBI. He brought critical reforms to make the organization more efficient, led the successful summer heat operation, served as the people's voice for transparency, and delivered major breakthroughs in long unsolved cases like the pipe bomb investigation. And that's only a small part of the work he went about every single day delivering for America. He not only completed the mission, he far exceeded it. We will miss him, but I'm thankful he accepted the call to serve. Our country is better and safer for it. So it seems like everything is good there. Dan Bongino went on Fox and Friends to bring a little more color to the situation. Here's how it went.
I mean, I gave up everything for this. I mean, my wife is struggling. I'm not a victim. I'm not Jim Comey. It's fine. I did this and I'm proud I did it. But if you think we're there for tea and crumpets, well, I mean, Kash is there all day. We share it. Our offices are linked. He turns on the faucet. I hear it. He's there he gets in at like 6 o'clock in the morning. He doesn't leave till 7 at night. I'm in there at 7:30 in the morning. He uses the gym. I work out in my apartment, but I stare at these four walls all day in DC, by myself, divorced from my wife, not divorced, but I mean, separated, divorced. And it's hard. I mean, we love each other and it's hard to be apart.
But you're doing some great work. You're straightening out the FBI, you're moving buildings. There's a lot of change.
All right. Yeah. So you can kind of understand after a while, it's like, we've made a bunch of progress. Why am I still doing this? And so Dan Bongino, obviously, I mean, the dude's, making millions in the podcast realm. Makes you wonder what's going to happen with that. The Vince Coalisi or whatever his name was sort of holding the spot. Huge opportunity for him. He's going to give that back to Dan, but still retain his radio show. Mostly Penny over on Rumble says Democrats would say that expert doesn't know what he is talking about. Yeah, you're talking about the professor of economics that said, this is absolutely good news and better than expected, and there's no way to spin it other than this is great news about the cooling inflation. Yeah, exactly. So keep your comments coming in the chat. Give us a heart if you're watching on X, and repost on whatever other platform that you are watching on as well. And of course, like, share, and subscribe. And if you would like to support our mission to bring you this content, you can help us cover our hard costs with a contribution using Cash App or Venmo at IkeReport.com, Cash App or Venmo at IkeReport.com. And of course, we love seeing your comments in the chat to keep a pulse on what you're thinking out there about what is going on. Okay, so this bombshell dropped on Real America's Voice the other night, where it exposes Chuck Schumer as writing the law making it legal to blow up drug boats, and did this back in 1986, which again speaks to how long this dude has been, a politician and on the taxpayer dime. What has he ever accomplished? I don't know, but I mean, this seems like a good law. Take a look.
This in front of me, this is the Maritime Drug Law Enforcement Act of 1986, authored by a member of Congress in 1986 from the state of New York. His name, Chuck Schumer. He wrote the law that passed almost unanimously that makes it legal to blow drug boats out of the water. It happened in the 80s a lot, in the 90s a lot. Go ahead, look it up, folks. Chuck Schumer, the author of this bill that made what we're doing with Venezuelan drug boats fully legal. We don't need permission from the rest of the world. Chuck Schumer gave us that in 1986.
That's a really good find. Part 5, Maritime Drug Law Enforcement Prosecution Improvements Act of 1986. Maritime Drug Law Enforcement Prosecution. It makes it unlawful for any person on board a vessel of the United States or on board a vessel subject to the jurisdiction of the United States to manufacture or distribute. Let me see if I can get the rest of the story. Can we do this? I mean, it's just like, let me see. It's doing a search on the fly here. Okay, it makes it illegal. How about that? It's there on the screen, hard to see, but it makes it unlawful for any person on board a vessel of the United States or on board a vessel subject to the jurisdiction of the United States to manufacture or distribute or possess with intent to manufacture or distribute a controlled substance. Subjects any property used to commit such unlawful acts to seizure and forfeiture. Okay, so let's see if there's anything about blowing up boats in here specifically. I mean, it's under the jurisdiction. It gives us the authority to seize these things, but I would have to see specifically. You know what? I'm just going to do this. I'm going to use AI to see if this would allow for us to do that, right? Okay. All right, let's see what we find. Okay, it extends basically it extends U.S. jurisdiction to the seas for drug trafficking. It doesn't contain specific language authorizing blowing up boats, according to ChatGPT. So, yeah. Now, by law, I mean, you look at this. I mean, how are these boats any different than like pirate ships, right? I mean, they don't have a flag. They don't have a country's flag. This is what Harbinger says. So they don't have a country's flag. So there's all kinds of different nuances about this that give our military the authority. But here's the other thing, man, is with every one of these strikes, they have attorneys reviewing every single situation before they take action. Like, it is buttoned up. It is buttoned up. And so people, this is all just political distraction. That's what they're trying to do. And they're trying to basically use the ignorance of the American people. And I'm not saying that disrespectfully. I'm just saying most Americans are not familiar with maritime law or the rules, of engagement or whatever. And so, and these people that are in the military, or were, and maybe back in to get court-martialed, Mark Petty, is that his name? It doesn't seem like that's his name. They are using this. I mean, they know better. It's not Mark Petty. Why am I saying that? Senator Petty. Is it Petty? Where am I going here? Kelly. Why am I calling him? Okay, Mark Kelly. Thank you. Thank you, BJ. Appreciate that. So what Mark Kelly is doing is he is playing off of the general ignorance that the American people have about military rules of engagement, etc. And they're basically trying to paint this picture of these savages just arbitrarily, unilaterally, without checking with anybody, saying, hey, that looks like some guys with some drugs. Fire it up, blow them up. Like it's Ricky Bobby, sitting in the control room making the call. Like, that's not what's happening at all. It's very calculated, very methodical, and very legal. But Mark Kelly and others, especially the ones that know about military rules and law, they know that our military can do this, but they're just trying to utilize it as a way to demonize, discredit, and disparage what President Trump, Secretary of War Hegseth, and our military are doing. And it's, it could get very, very nasty, very, very nasty for Mark Kelly, because he knows what he's doing. And he knows when you're in the military, you or having ever been in the military, you're not allowed to go and say the things that he's saying to discredit or demoralize, etc. the military. Like, that's a specific rule, and he knows that. And it depends on how far President Trump wants to go, but he could make a real example out of him if he wanted to. So just keep an eye on that. All right, we're going to take a break, and then we are going to come back with the CEO of Alexo Athletica, Amy Robbins. Alexo Athletica, they provide sort of athleisure wear that allows for you to conceal, carry, to protect yourself. Specifically, though, Amy's going to talk to us about these EIDL loans, these loans that a lot of companies took out during COVID, these economic injury disaster loans. And she is advocating, as an advocate for small business, that these should be forgiven by our government. And so, do you agree with her or disagree? We're going to get her take on it and find out what we think once we talk to her when we come back after the break. All right. And in the meantime, help us out in the algorithm by giving us a thumbs up, give us a thumbs up and repost. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. If you're watching on X right now, heart the post and repost. And make sure you're following me on X. You can see my username in the bottom of the screen there. It's Ike Wingate on X, IKEWINGATE. That is my handle on X. So please go there and follow me now on X. And that way you can see what we're up to, right? Yeah, so do that. If you want to support us financially and help us bring you this content, we're just asking you to help us cover our hard costs. You can do so via Cash App or Venmo, at IkeReport.com. So that's a $5, $10, $20 contribution, whatever it is. But you can do that at IkeReport.com. And if you do, I will announce your name. I promise you, I will announce your name. So do that right now. Again, at IkeReport.com. Back after this.
Oh, hey. Didn't see you there. Well, just hanging out on the farm here. You know, one thing I was thinking about this morning is, when's the next crisis going to hit? It's not really a matter of if, it's just a matter of when. And we really can't rely on the government to take care of a shortage or something like that. We just got to take care of ourselves. You remember back in COVID, you tried to go to the store and everything was gone? Well, you can't risk that kind of thing. That's why I suggest My Patriot Supply. You can go to preparewithike.com and get your 4-week emergency food kit. Save $50 when you use my URL. Again, it is preparewithike.com. It's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when. And the question is, when it does happen, will your family eat? Make sure there's no question about it. Take action now. Save $50, 4-week emergency food kit. Preparewithike.com. Fourscore and 7 years ago, there used to be men in this country. Now this country's full of a bunch of weenie men. You think about all the stuff that's in the water, plastics, microplastics, there's estrogen everywhere. In fact, compared to 100 years ago, men have half the testosterone that they used to. Look, it's not like getting shot in the back of the head. All you need to do is take chalk once every day, and you can boost your testosterone for fun things that require your energy, like working out or playing sports or actually spending time with your kids. I wish I could do that, but I can't because I'm dead. But if I were alive, I would take chalk. The Patriots at Chalk combine the most powerful herbal extracts, so it's all natural, giving you that lift that you need. George, come spot me.
Well, Abe, if I too were alive, I'd gladly spot you.
It's time to boost your testosterone to levels not seen since 1776 or 1860 or 1864, whatever. But it's herbal. It's natural. It's made in the USA. It's been clinically studied to boost testosterone. We're talking about chalk. Okay? Stop being all weird with this trends and everything else. We didn't have that back in my day. We had real men. It's time to get boosted back to those levels when men were men and women were women and there wasn't anything in between. Right, Mary?
Yes, Lincoln.
That's right. Get chalk. IkeWingate.com. Get chalk. If you want to be like me, get chalk. Except for the dead part. Okay. IkeWingate.com.
Hey there! Tired of watching your subscription costs climb higher and higher? With Q Broadcast, you get more for less. All your favorite channels and content bundled into one unbeatable package. No contracts, no hidden fees, just simple, affordable streaming. Say goodbye to overpriced services and hello to a new era of entertainment. This is streaming the way it should be. Q Broadcast, this changes everything.
You can sign up for Q Streaming today at IkeWingate.com. Just click Get Q Streaming to start streaming tons of channels, video on demand, even pay-per-view, all for the same price. It's all included. This is a Christian conservative-owned company that does not hate your values. Stop giving money to the cabal of big tech. Support companies that support your values. Right now at IkeWingate.com, just click Get Q Streaming.
Big tech tries to censor him, but he won't back down. Now back to the Ike Wingate Show.
All right, welcome back into the show. We want to say welcome to our friends watching on the Right Side Broadcast Network. Of course, make sure you're following them on X. Follow me on X at Ike Wingate as well. Okay, we want your comments. Keep those coming throughout the show. Give us a thumbs up, heart the post on X, repost the broadcast, do all those things to help us. We would greatly appreciate it. Okay, so during COVID, there was something that a lot of companies took out called these EIDL loans, EIDL, and that stands for Emergency Injury Disaster Loans. Okay, so that's the context by which we reference EIDL loans. Okay, and so we're bringing in our guest here now. It is Amy Robbins. Amy is the CEO of Alexo Athletica. And Amy, it is great to have you with us. Thank you for joining us today.
Ike, thank you so much for having me on. I'm really looking forward to this discussion today.
All right. Yeah, absolutely. We're grateful that you joined us. Amy, you and I have been on some of the same panels on Newsmax appearances. You've done a lot of appearances, not only for Newsmax, but also Fox News, etc. Let people know if they're not familiar with you. Who are you? What do you do? And why should they follow you and keep up with you?
Well, I'm the CEO of a company called Alexo Athletic. I actually think it will resonate greatly with your audience, especially after seeing one of your ads about Patriot Supply. This audience, I think, really does appreciate self-reliance and not relying on the government when things hit the fan. And that's exactly what my company solves a problem of. As we've been seeing a lot of these increased violent attacks on women due to illegal immigration or soft on crime policies, my company, Alexo, is actually solving that problem. So several years ago, I went out for a run and was followed and harassed by 7 men in a van, and I didn't carry any self-defense tool at that moment. So I did the only thing I knew what to do, which was pray and ask God to get me home safely, in which he did. And I said, I'm going to do something with my second chance. And that's exactly how I came up with the idea to start the very first fashionable and functional concealed carry line to give women the choice to carry self-defense tools on their body while they're wearing active wear.
Yeah, so basically, it creates the situation where you don't have to really change your life from a practical standpoint to be able to defend yourself when a lot of these ways to, the holsters and things like that, they're great, but they're not practical. And that seems to be the impetus for why your product is so great.
Well, it was. And plus you have to remember, a lot of the companies in the firearm industry it's a very male dominated industry. So they were making clothing that didn't just really didn't quite fit my fancy. I wanted to wear the same name brand, activewear brands I was already wearing, the quality, the fashionability of them, but just have some functionality to where if a woman wanted to carry something like a burn-up pepper ball blaster or a firearm, they had pockets built in and they didn't have to sacrifice their fashion for function.
Now, did you have a background in apparel or something like that? Like what were you doing sort of before you went on this run that sort of started your new chapter?
Great question. So I had a background in media, and I was actually hosting a TV show for the NRA when they started their very first owned platform. And that's how I got into the firearm space. I've always owned guns. I just was never considered a gun enthusiast or anything like that. The only background in fashion that I had been a model for 15 years prior to that, but I had no experience with manufacturing, no experience with design. I basically had to reach out to all of my friends in the industry and tell them what I was doing, many of which laughed at me and said, this is ridiculous. I can't believe you're going to encourage women to run with guns in their pants. And then I had other people, reach out and say, they would do this. They would say, hey, I'm a closeted gun person out in Los Angeles. And I think idea is awesome. And I think people are starting to wake up, especially now when we hear stories like Laken Riley or Irina Zarutska or all these other women who are falling victim to violent crimes that they don't have to. And so I really like to be a strong encourager for women to be their very own first line of defense and have those tools on their body readily available so that they can use them at a moment's notice.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I love it. So just before we get to the idle stuff, your website is alexoathletica.com. Where does the name come from? And then is there still time before Christmas to get some of your products here?
Yes, absolutely. You can still get, if you place your orders this week, by tomorrow, you'll still no doubt get the products before Christmas. But the name Alexo in Greek actually means to defend and to help. And we had to, of course, throw in that subtle 2A alliteration. So that's how we with Alexo Athletica, because we are definitely a strong Second Amendment supporting company. We will never back down, no matter how many hit pieces, no matter how many times the mainstream media tried to cancel us. We never back down from supporting a woman's right to choose how she wants to defend herself.
Fantastic. Okay, alexoathletica.com. Okay, so you're here to talk about we're talking about this online, and it intrigued me because I'm familiar with the economic injury disaster loans, or these EIDL loans. And they've been around for a while, right? But they sort of took off for a lot of businesses during COVID. They're designed as something to help businesses in a declared disaster area or which have suffered substantial economic injury. And COVID obviously made kind of a disaster area for, well, the entire country. So a lot of companies got them. In full disclosure, I was running a company that received one during 2020. We paid it back, but it was something we did in the middle of our company basically being shut down because of the government.
Yep.
And so is that a fair assessment of what it is? And
Yes.
what did I miss, and help fill in the gaps here?
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. So what it is not, I know a lot of people are really familiar with the PPP loan program. Those were actually designed to help companies pay their payroll expenses. Now, the majority of those actually were forgiven, but what people don't talk a lot about are these EIDL loans, which, you know, this is very different than somebody taking out a loan simply because, you know, they chose to take something out that they knew they couldn't afford and weren't being able to pay it back. Now, this is the government saying, the federal, state, and local government saying, no, your businesses simply can't operate right now. And for a lot of small businesses, we're talking 33 million businesses, small businesses across America, 4 million of which took out these loans because they simply couldn't pay things like their rent, their utilities, their inventory, their debt services. So we're talking about a fixed expense that these companies had to take on. And really, I didn't even think about this until the affordability conversation started happening. And I started to pay attention to it because same thing, like our company took one of these loans out, not a massive amount. The majority of these loans range between like $50,000 to $150,000. And some go a little bit higher, some were a little bit lower. But during this affordability cost, I said, you know, people are giving some solutions that may have some good long-term impacts, but why aren't we having conversations that could impact people right now at this very moment? And I would think that the GOP could get behind something like a COVID EIDL relief program, simply because they're supposed to be the ones that are championing small businesses. They're supposed to be the ones that are championing capitalism and being for the private sector. And when you have a situation like COVID, where the business made you shut down and you were in a lot of cases, these companies were not being able to generate revenue. And if you know small businesses, they don't usually just have a really large sum of cash stashed away as a reserve. And so they were really struggling. And I started to hear a lot, as I started talking about this, people were reaching out to me every single day saying, Amy, thank you for talking about this, because our EIDL loans are strangling us right now. We would love to be able to pass these savings, get a fixed cost savings and pass that on to our customers. Because if you think about it, Ike, you and I both know small businesses typically operate on a razor thin margin. So if they had to increase their fixed expenses with these EIDL loans, if they were to get that forgiven moving forward, that would give them a high incentive to either keep the prices where they're at and not increase them the next year, or reduce those prices so they could earn some sort of advantage in a soft economy. And we saw, the reason I say that is because we actually saw that happen in 2021 when the EIDL loan payback program hadn't started yet. A lot of these companies actually did lower their costs, and then they admittedly had to raise their prices when the $500 to $2,000 a month payments kicked in for them to start paying back these EIDL loans.
So have you, I believe you put sort of some statistics and numbers to this scenario. I think it was something like on average, what was it, $700 to $800 a month? A lot of these companies are paying. Obviously, that's an average. I could be wrong on the numbers.
Well,
but
and that's paying, that's actually paying back the bare minimum. So at that rate, and these are 30-year loans that people are trying to pay back. So a lot of people, if they do actually intend on paying these back, increase that amount, which comes directly out of their revenue. So we're looking at about 37% of these $4 million EIDL loans right now are actually in default. And Ike, that is really terrible for our economy if that many companies default, because there's not a whole lot. There's not even, they took away the ability to reduce. They had a program, I think, at the beginning where they could settle and reduce the amount that was owed, but that has gone away. So now some of the only options are for these companies to declare bankruptcy, which really would be horrible for the economy, or they just have to keep taking out of their revenue. And so I got some of these numbers here. They say around 3.7 million businesses still owe around $330 to $350 billion. So for that program to be relieved, that's how much we would be looking at in loan forgiveness. Seems like a high number. However, it's very close to when they had the Inflation Reduction Act in 2022. It's very similar to that same amount of money that was going to be going towards subsidies for like energy companies, right? And when you think about it, these EIDL loan forgivenesses would go directly back to the small business owners. They wouldn't be going to shareholders. They wouldn't be leaking out to imports. They would be going directly back to the small business owners who actually affect our everyday costs. We're talking about companies like your auto mechanic, the diner owners, the barber shops, your concealed carry activewear companies. They all have a high incentive to not continue to raise their costs or to lower their costs that would directly impact consumers right now.
So, okay, to play devil's advocate on that, the Inflation Reduction Act was not good for inflation, even though the title was totally counterintuitive there. So would a forgiveness mechanism like you're talking about, would it be bad for inflation?
Well, I mean, when you start thinking about it, you look at how these companies are the innovators and the ones who actually stimulate the economy. And the only thing that really I look back to is how this affected business owners back in 2021 through 2023, before they actually had to start paying these back. It was not contributing to the inflation, but it was actually helping consumers keep their costs low on everyday goods and services. And I do believe, some people want to say, well, why do these companies take these loans out if they could never pay them back? Again, we're talking about a very different scenario than, say, a student loan debt forgiveness program. Okay, a lot of these people that took out these loans for schools went to schools that they never could afford. They got degrees that they knew that they were never going to be able to pay back these loans. So that is very different. We are talking about a forced government shutdown on companies who are actually the backbone of our country. And these are the people who are innovating. They're the ones that are creating jobs. They're the ones that are stimulating the economy. And I think we can do a lot of good by giving them some of this relief back, especially since most of these businesses probably would have never even taken these loans if the government hadn't shut everything down.
Yeah, I have always been of the mind, I'm not taking government money. I'm not taking government money. And then when they shut everything down for COVID, I had a clear conscience about it and said, I'm taking out a PPP because I can absolutely point to the revenue that this has cost me because they've, overstepped. And President Trump was in office then, and obviously he was listening to his experts. And in hindsight, I don't think he would do that again. But so I sort of saw it as, well, it's their fault. I don't like it. I know it's going to jack up inflation. I know it's going to come home to roost at some point. I mean, we saw, even in 2021, to an extent, 2022, the economy just continuing to, thrive in some industries. And it was baffling to me because I was trying to figure out, how are these industries still doing well? And it was propped up by artificial money, right? Yep. And it seems like the effect of what we were seeing as potential positives then, it's actually on the back end having to be paid for now, and this is one of the places it's showing itself. Would you say that's accurate?
Yeah, I would definitely say that was accurate. And look, there's been a lot of things that have been thrown around, like I said, for potential long-term solutions. Cut corporate tax rates, give $1,200 stimulus checks to the economy, universal child care, all of these things that to me just continue, other than cutting the corporate tax rate, would continue to increase dependency on the government. And, at this moment, I think that there's a lot of businesses who, like I said, if we give them this relief, they would be happy to, at the very least, not continue to raise their prices. Because as we know, and unfortunately, I've been a big proponent for President Trump's tariffs. I think that we have had an unfair trade. There's been unfair trade deals against the United States for decades. So I do see what he's doing long term, but people are feeling the effects of that right now. I do believe, especially if you manufacture overseas, you are having to increase prices right now due to some of those tariffs, unfortunately, but I still believe that long term it's going to be a good thing for America. But there are little things that have played a part in this whole affordability crisis, if that's what we're calling it right now. I still want to continue to focus on the economy and how these small businesses really do move our economy forward. We cannot lose the 33 million small businesses that we have in this country. That is the backbone, the entrepreneurial spirit, the innovation. That is what drives our country. That is the American dream. And so getting a little bit of relief will continue to help people entrepreneurs exactly what they are created to do, which is to innovate, create jobs, and help stimulate the economy.
Yeah, there's no doubt that small business is the backbone of America and a huge part of the economy. So your argument would be in favor of this. The reasons why is because it was, it was a dictated shutdown by our government. And then two, this is sort of an investment back into our economy because of the companies that have taken these loans out are then innovating and growing our economy, jobs, tax revenue. And so it's not just about forgiving a debt, it's an investment into the future. What criteria do you see being wise as it relates to who would get relief and who wouldn't?
I thought about that. And really, like I said, most of these loans are sitting between that $50,000 to $150,000 range. And even if we were to forgive all of the EIDL loans that are out there, it still doesn't equal the same amount that they're proposing on other long-term solutions. So it's not like it's really going to hurt the government to forgive these loans when these are the people that are reinvesting back into the economy and re-stimulating things. So, I just think that if businesses want to get behind this, there's a clear call to action that people need to do. And I've seen a lot. I actually started researching and looking up articles. People are trying to get the word out there, especially I've seen a lot of restaurant owners that talked about the struggles and how they're still being strangled under these EIDL loans. And they don't know where to turn. They don't know who to go to. The Congress actually had proposed some potential or possible relief scenarios a couple of years ago. It just didn't go anywhere. So it's sitting there. You can actually go look it up. They say, hey, we could either should we do a full forgiveness where we actually pay people the money that they've already paid into the program? And I don't necessarily think that we have to do that. I think small business owners would be thankful just to get their remaining loans forgiven without having to go through the bankruptcy process, without having to try to, because you still have to settle your loan. If you don't pay back their loans, there are some serious ramifications for you getting future business loans to the SBA if you have to settle or if you don't pay your loans back. And a lot of people forget about these loans. Like I said, there's 37% that are in default right now. They may not even realize that they're in default, and they're going to have some repercussions that they're going to have to deal with after. So I would just tell people, anytime you go and take out any of these loans, you really need to look at what is the interest rate. The term sounded good at the beginning of this program, but what I think people realized is that as they're having to pay these back, this stuff is coming directly out of their revenue. And for small businesses, we're not talking about multi-billion-dollar corporations like Walmart and Amazon. We're talking about small mom and pop shops who they're typically the last ones to get paid. Sometimes that means they don't take a paycheck. And so giving them a little bit of relief would help and go a very long way.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think if the criteria were right, that this could be very, palatable to even conservatives, because the problem with some of these programs through COVID was all the fraud, right?
Yep.
Where so many people have taken advantage of it. So I think it would be it would be attractive if there were certain size businesses maybe, and if you could guarantee that they didn't engage in fraud, that it was completely legit and some
Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah.
I think it could be something that people would get on board with.
I would love to see them get behind it. Look, supporting small businesses seems to be exclusively a Republican issue. I don't know why that is. There's a lot of Democrats that own small businesses, but the Democrat Party never seems to fall on the side of capitalism. The Republican Party should be the party that is supporting capitalism, trying to make innovation and job creation as easy as possible. So I would really think that they could get behind this. I was kind of thinking through this, and would I be okay with them setting parameters like, hey, for the next 5 years, you can't raise your prices by X percent. But then there's always external things that are happening that make you have to raise your prices other than just the EIDL loan forgiveness. I think a blanket forgiveness for everybody who took these loans would go a very long way. I like less government intervention. Obviously, we had to rely on the government, the SBA in this situation. But I think a blanket forgiveness program would be fantastic. And I would hope the small business owners would do the right thing, pass those savings on. Of course, you can't be sure about that, but I just know that with capitalism, they're incentivized to do that. They're incentivized to drop their prices. It is a competitive market out there right now. They're not scaling at the same rate as a major corporation. So they're incentivized to actually try to keep their prices as low as possible so that they can get any part of that market share that they can.
So to clarify, you're saying people that took the loans during COVID for the blanket forgiveness, you're not necessarily saying anybody who's ever taken an EIDL loan, right?
No, I'm just talking about COVID. And look, this wouldn't be the first time there's been a forgiveness program. They did forgiveness programs during Katrina. I mean, EIDL loans have been around for a long time. I'm talking specifically about COVID, specifically because the government forced the shutdown and these people had no other alternative but to close their doors, to stop generating revenue, and to do something that would help them cover the bills that were still coming in.
Yeah, absolutely. So what do you think the next step is? What if people want to support this, what do they need to do? What do you suggest?
So get on the phone and call your reps. That is the best thing that you can do. And you don't have to just be a small business owner that took out an EIDL loan. I think that everybody needs to call their state reps because this is going to affect everybody. If this works the way that it should work and that it could work, you would start to see lower prices at your local coffee shop, your barber shop, your auto mechanic, your diner. So everybody could potentially benefit from this. So I would encourage everybody to give them a call and say, hey, I would like to chime in on the affordability crisis conversation and offer a solution. Please back the COVID EIDL forgiveness program, and please do it now.
So you said state reps. Did you mean, reps, on the federal level in
Yes,
Congress?
sorry. Your
Okay,
rep,
so
yes,
it's
at the federal level with Congress. Congress is the one that has to make the legislation that would actually forgive the EIDL loans.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. All right. So people just have to let their voices be heard.
Yep.
And, obviously,
Yep.
that creates momentum over time. So,
Mhm.
well, I was very intrigued when I saw, that the clip of you with this and really wanted to find out more about it. And I can really appreciate where you're coming from on it, because it just makes so much sense from the standpoint of it was, a mandated shutdown.
Yep.
I don't think we've ever seen anything like that. I hope
Yep.
we never do again. And so these are the kind of questions you got to wrestle with. And really, I mean, I'm struck with the fact that all of these years later, where maybe for a little while it looked like we had calm waters, but underneath this was brewing. And now, you look at the affordability side or whatever, and, these things are part of, sort of dragging, these
and
businesses under.
I also think a lot of businesses have just been suffering in silence, Ike, for several years. They thought maybe I could make a $500 payment, but then when you really look at the entire scope of this loan, where you've got 30 years to pay it back with accruing interest, a lot of small businesses may not even be around in 30 years. So they have to then figure out, well, what am I going to do? I have to come up with a very large sum of money right now, first you have to declare bankruptcy if that's the way that you're going to go. Then you still have to settle your loan for maybe a reduced amount. I mean, like it's really not a great scenario. So then they just sit there and continue to figure out how they're going to pay this out of their revenue, which could go for bonuses for their employees, which could go to, I don't know, pay for your Christmas presents at Christmas time. And there's a lot that small business owners could do with an extra $500 to $2,000 a month.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, especially right now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anything else you think we should know about this that I failed to ask you that people should understand?
No, I think we pretty much covered it. Just call your reps and let your voices be heard. This is going to take the effort of everybody coming together and saying, look, this could be a great possible solution for immediate relief. If that is what everybody is focusing on, you know, we don't want to see something 5 years down the road take place. People are feeling it right now and they want the relief right now. And this is one part of the approach. There's multiple things that can happen, but this is just one piece of the puzzle that if this happens, we could see some immediate relief.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I like the out of the box thinking there. Amy Robbins, CEO, Alexo Athletica.
Yep.
And go check out the website, alexoathletica.com. Amy, we will have you back if you're willing to join us.
I'd love to.
Would love to get your take on plenty of other things too, and really appreciate your voice on the conservative side, and appreciate your time, and Merry Christmas.
Thanks, Ike. You too. Merry Christmas, and I would love to come back anytime.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, take care.
Okay. Awesome. All right, Amy Robbins there. CEO, Alexo Athletica, the active wear that allows you to defend yourself, ladies. There's guy stuff there too, but check it out, alexoathletica.com. All right, we're going to hit a break here. We're going to come back and we're going to talk about Candace Owens. And, you know my opinion here. She's been proven wrong left and right. She's grifting off of the horrible assassination of her so-called friend. And she's now being challenged in the public square, and we're going to get to some of that after the break.
Oh, hey. Didn't see you there. Well, just hanging out on the farm here. You know, one thing I was thinking about this morning is, when's the next crisis going to hit? It's not really a matter of if, it's just a matter of when. And we really can't rely on the government to take care of a shortage or something like that. We just got to take care of ourselves. You remember back in COVID, you tried to go to the store and everything was gone? Well, you can't risk that kind of thing. That's why I suggest My Patriot Supply. You can go to preparewithike.com and get your 4-week emergency food kit. Save $50 when you use my URL. Again, it is preparewithike.com. It's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when. And the question is, when it does happen, will your family eat? Make sure there's no question about it. Take action now. Save $50. 4-week emergency food kit, preparewithike.com.
Fourscore and 7 years ago, there used to be men in this country. Now this country's full of a bunch of weenie men. You think about all the stuff that's in the water, plastics, microplastics, there's estrogen everywhere. In fact, compared to 100 years ago, men have half the testosterone that they used to. Look, it's not like getting shot in the back of the head. All you need to do is take chalk once every day, and you can boost your testosterone for fun things that require your energy, like working out or playing sports or actually spending time with your kids. I wish I could do that, but I can't, because I'm dead. But if I were alive, I would take chalk. The Patriots at Chalk combine the most powerful herbal extracts, so it's all natural, giving you that lift that you need. George, come spot me.
Well, Abe, if I too were alive, I'd gladly spot you.
It's time to boost your testosterone to levels not seen since 1776 or 1860 or 1864, whatever. But it's herbal. It's natural. It's made in the USA. It's been clinically studied to boost testosterone. We're talking about chalk, okay? Stop being all weird with this trends and everything else. We didn't have that back in my day. We had real men. It's time to get boosted back to those levels when men were men and women were women and there wasn't anything in between. Right, Mary?
Yes, Lincoln.
That's right. Get chalk. IkeWingate.com. Get chalk. If you want to be like me, get chalk. Except for the dead part. Okay. IkeWingate.com.
Hey there! Tired of watching your subscription costs climb higher and higher? With Q Broadcast, you get more for less. All your favorite channels and content bundled into one unbeatable package. No contracts, no hidden fees, just simple, affordable streaming. Say goodbye to overpriced services and hello to a new era of entertainment. This is streaming the way it should be. Q Broadcast, this changes everything.
You can sign up for Q Streaming today at IkeWingate.com. Just click Get Q Streaming to start streaming tons of channels, video on demand, even pay-per-view, all for the same price. It's all included. This is a Christian conservative-owned company that does not hate your values. Stop giving money to the cabal of big tech. Support companies that support your values. Right now at IkeWingate.com, just click Get Q Streaming.
Like Ike, I like Ike, everybody likes Ike.
Now back to the Ike Wingate Show.
Welcome back. Thank you for joining us today. Hit the thumbs up and share this broadcast. That helps us in the algorithm. If you don't want to support us in any other way, please consider doing that. If you want other people to know about this content, of course, we'd appreciate a thumbs up and a share and a subscribe. Why don't you subscribe? If you want to take it further, you can support us monetarily by helping us cover our hard costs using Cash App or Venmo. $5, $10, $20 contribution right now at IkeReport.com. If you're watching on Rumble, you can become a $5 a month paid subscriber as well at rumble.com/The Ike Wingate Show. Okay. Where do we go from here? How about Candace Owens, right? Every day there's like an update on Candace Owens. Candace Owens now admits that her Egyptian planes spreadsheet was misleading, but still refusing to acknowledge the factual errors. She's been trying to say that these planes, these Egyptian planes, are everywhere that Erica Kirk is. 66% of the Egyptian, this is Kanoka the Great analyzing this, says 66% of the Egyptian plane locations on her original spreadsheet are wrong. She's never provided verifiable evidence of where Erica actually was, and now admits that a column titled Erica's location was not Erica's location at all. Let's take a look.
I want to add, of course, I was locked in this meeting when people online were another round of debunking the Egyptian planes. I want to be very clear. We discussed the Egyptian planes, and I have since worked on an incredible document about the Egyptian planes, which we are going to put up on our website, because I realized that when we shared that spreadsheet, people assumed that one of the columns, which was actually saying where the planes landed on that day, because it was plus or minus 3 days, was exactly where Erica had been on that day, and that was inaccurate. And so for clarity, I had been working on the last week on turning it into an interactive timeline that we can...
Wait a minute. So that was inaccurate. So let's just skip over that really, really fast. Let's skip over it really, really fast. It was inaccurate. I mean, isn't that the whole theory that you're going with? Like the Egyptian planes, wherever Erica was, and she, they're following her, she's working with them, or whatever the crazy bat crap theory that Candace has going. I don't know.
Put up on our website, because I'm certain that these Egyptian planes are incredibly shady and that they were in fact tracking Turning Point USA, Faith, broader events. Of course, Erica was at some of them, Charlie was at some of them, but it is the pattern here is undeniable. So let the naysayers and people make videos trying to, fifth round debunk these planes. I also want to say to you that I feel very confident that I know why these planes have caused such panic. And it is because there is overwhelming evidence that these planes regularly fly in and out of Israel. And I'm going to present that evidence tomorrow. I say that strongly. This is I feel very confident saying these Egyptian planes are flying in and out. And notice I'm saying planes because once I was able to connect people that were on those planes onto other Egyptian planes, I was able to realize that these planes are flying in and out of Israel and turning their transponder off each time that they do it. That is now makes perfect sense of why there was this mass panic, right? It's not exactly like we have a strong Egyptian lobby.
Mass panic? What are you talking about, mass panic? There's no mass panic. It's literally people being like, "This, you're ridiculous." So you see this column E says Erica's location. Well, it wasn't correct because that wasn't actually where Erica Kirk was. And so it's going through this. Oh, this plane flew from Cairo to Paris to New York. Well, Erica Kirk was in New York, plus or minus 3 days around the same time. I mean, give me a break. You can draw these kind of parallels to almost anybody in the country who travels a fair amount. I mean, this is utterly ridiculous. 66% of this was inaccurate. All the stuff in red, inaccurate. Okay? The actual location of the aircraft, inaccurate. The actual location of Erica Kirk, inaccurate. I mean, she's going through all these places where this plane allegedly was, but after people analyze this, they're like, no, look over here on the far right. You probably can't see it, but it says in all these scenarios where she says this plane was flying from Wilmington to Paris to Cairo, Egypt. No, actually, the plane was in Egypt the whole time. This is just one small example of Candace Owens being full of absolute crap. Let's continue. Cinema Shogun on X says that Candace Owens is folding like a cheap lawn chair after receiving pushback from her own fans. She pinned this comment on a recent video, but quickly deleted it after receiving even more pushback. As you can see, she plays the victim and fishes for sympathy that did not come. So this is the comment she pinned on this video. Let's see. Is this an, okay, so it's not an actual video. So this is a screenshot of the video. She pinned this comment. I'm a bit frustrated by the comments here. Foremost, I was only given the option for a closed door meeting. She's talking about her meeting with Erica Kirk earlier this week. It was almost 5 hours long. I obviously agreed to do it. I need more time to digest. I just wanted to present the facts to you all today of what they said without any of my own innuendo, because there is a lot to digest and pray about. It's difficult to put into words what it's like to be in my position. Again, it's always about her. It's always about her. It's not about finding the truth of Charlie Kirk. It's all about her. She's a victim. It's difficult to be put into to what it's like to be in my position. You have done nothing but ask for this, by the way, because you want attention. And to have to consider the scenarios that no person on earth should have to consider. How many people can even say they've watched a friend of theirs be murdered in cold blood over politics, and then has to consider the possibility that entire governments colluded to make it happen, and maybe even the people close to him, all while being attacked from every media group and influencer in the world? It's very heavy stuff. And on top of it, I have to deal with how fickle the audience is if I make even one mistake on pronunciation, God forbid. I'm telling you, all the signs are there. She's cooked. Things are caving in on her. She unpinned that comment, by the way, after she basically disparaged her own audience. But this is just an indicator that it's, the beginning of the end has already begun for Candace Owens. She is going to be a has-been very soon. Okay? Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not next week, but by the end of all the truth coming out about the Charlie Kirk assassination, mark my words, people will turn on her, that pay her money or subscribe to her or whatever, because all it's become now is entertaining from the standpoint of watching a train wreck. Okay, and we have this from the Daily Mail. Insiders blow the lid on Candace Owens' descent into the rabbit hole. They point to jealousy, paranoia, and the moment she turned on Erica Kirk. Again, from the Daily Mail, Candace Owens' conspiracy theories against Erica Kirk are motivated by the jealousy she has of being left out of their wedding. according to insiders. I've told you there's way more to this. I think she had a crush on him. And you know, that's the only justification I see. And it's not even justification, but you could point to as reason that someone would get so crazy and so emotional about it is there's something more at play here. Insiders described Candace Owens, who's 36, as sadistic and dangerous for spreading lies that Erica and Turning Point USA were involved in Kirk's assassination. She was pushed out of Turning Point because she was going a little bit nuts, according to a source close to Turning Point leadership, and the revelation to the New York Post from that source. Kirk, quote, would still text her to keep the friendship going, but Owens' involvement with the organization ended in 2019. When Charlie started dating Erica in 2018, Owens reportedly became jealous and felt usurped. Ding, ding, ding. That's what it's all about. She wasn't even invited to the wedding. Wait, I thought you were such great friends. So this is Charlie being gone, Candace being able to attempt to rewrite history and act like they were closer than they were and get attention in the process. And so, again, more and more sources will be coming out telling the real story about who Candace Owens is. And even further than that, she went on and spoke with Piers Morgan, ranting like a crazy person. Take a look.
87,000 front war.
Candace, I want to get to the reality of what you're actually saying. So when you say that somebody at Turning Point USA, Charlie's company, was complicit in his murder, who was?
I believe that there were multiple people at Turning Point who are, as I have said many times, my exact words are, they are engaged in a cover-up of what happened to Charlie on that day.
No, but who was involved in his murder?
I didn't say that they murdered Charlie.
You said that people at Turning Point were complicit in his murder.
No, my exact sentence that I said was that there were people at Turning Point who are engaged in a...
Wait a minute. Didn't she just say?
I want to get to the reality of what you're actually saying. So when you say that somebody at Turning Point USA, Charlie's company, was complicit in his murder, who was?
I believe that there were multiple people at Turning Point who are, as I have said many times, my exact words are, they are engaged in a cover-up.
So she didn't dispute it when he said it there. Okay. And then later on, he says it. She's like, I never said that.
JFK. I said, okay, JFK.
Say that. You said literally.
I did say that on my entire show.
You said there were people at Turning Point complicit in his murder.
Okay.
That's what you said.
When you and I were discussing, that's why I said, let's go back. I was applying the logic of a conspiracy to JFK. I said, okay, JFK, you have people that are complicit. Of course, if you apply that logic, if there is a conspiracy, there's going to be multiple people that are going to be complicit by the time, in order for a large stage murder to happen.
You specifically said, you didn't say complicit in a cover-up. You said complicit in the murder. Because I said, who at Turning Point was involved in his murder? And
let me clarify for you. Okay, you can keep saying what I said, or you can listen to what I am saying.
Okay.
When I was using the analogy of JFK and we were connecting it, I was basically pushing back on you because you were suggesting that, you know, all of these people being involved would be crazy. So I was applying the analogy
I said,
of what
I don't know.
JFK. Well, you actually, if you go back and listen,
I don't know.
Suggesting that a conspiracy.
I said, you don't know either. You're floating theories.
When we started talking about the JFK thing,
listen, let me make it clear.
Piers, I really think you're not holding on to your thoughts
Candace,
here correctly.
let me spell out my thought very clearly.
When we started talking about JFK, the implication that you were making was that it was crazy to suggest that multiple people could have been involved at different levels.
Okay. I mean, what is going on here? Okay. Sure sounds like someone's backing up, not sure of what she actually said or didn't say because she said so many outrageous things. And then she's like talking about JFK.
Candace.
I was then connecting the dots and saying that in order for the JFK assassination to happen, there had to have been tons of people that were complicit.
I understand.
Right?
I heard what you said.
Maybe you're the person who takes the cameras down. Maybe you're the person that told him to drive that day. Maybe you're LBJ. So they're not all complicit in the murder, but they're all at different varying stages involved in the cover-up. Right? So that's what a grand conspiracy actually is. And I do believe, so you don't have to go back and we don't have to go through it. I'm telling you what I think about Turning Point. You know, I am very known for being honest about what I believe. You know, I'm not exactly a person that you got to pull teeth on.
Sure.
I believe that there are people at Turning Point who are engaged in covering up what happened on that day.
But were any of them engaged in the planning of the murder of Charlie Kirk?
I wouldn't know how it was planned. Absolutely. I can't make that. I cannot confidently make that statement. I can say confidently that I know they're engaged in the cover up because I've been investigating what happened on that day.
Okay, so why would they cover up this murder if they weren't involved in the murder? That I mean, to me, that's, you're saying they're involved in the cover up, but why would anyone ever be involved in covering something up if they weren't involved in the actual act that they're trying to cover up? I mean, that's just kind of a basic question, isn't it?
And what transpired thereafter. I've been clear. I've named those people on my show. I've said they are engaged in a cover-up, and I've listed the lies. So you don't have to try to.
You see what I'm saying? This is innuendo. This is inferring. This is implying. If you're saying that people are involved in a cover-up, you're essentially saying they also murdered him. I mean, even though she has gone further and said that as well to varying degrees, but while you can skirt it and say, I never said they murdered him, when you imply, or actually not even imply, specifically say that they were involved in a cover-up, you are inferring that they also killed him. Because who covers up a crime they didn't commit? I guess it's possible, but highly unlikely.
Make something out of what I didn't say. I tell you what I think. It's already controversial. We don't need to get more controversial, okay? Do I think someone at Turning Point pulled the trigger? No. Obviously, I don't think someone at Turning Point pulled the trigger.
Do you think anybody at Turning Point,
did anybody
at Turning Point, in your opinion, know that Charlie Kirk was going to be murdered?
There is specifically 2 people at Turning Point USA, and I have communicated that information to Erica and Justin Strife, that I would not be surprised if they had foreknowledge of Charlie Kirk being assassinated.
But do you have any evidence?
I'm not going to name. I am not going to name those people, okay? Because it's not right for me to name those people until I know for a fact that they did.
Did you give the names Did you give the names to Erica?
Yes, so I absolutely did.
You gave the names to Erica of 2 employees, current employees at Turning Point, who you believe were involved in the preparation for the murder of Charlie Kirk. Is that what you're saying?
I told them that if I were in your shoes, these would be 2 employees that I would look further into. That's
and what evidence do you have that they had any prior knowledge of the murder?
Because I don't have concrete evidence is the reason why I'm not naming them. So
But you're making allegations without naming the names, which I think is ridiculous. If you're going to make the allegation, name the names, be able to back up what you're saying. Eric says, just speculation, no receipts, no evidence. She's just making things up like she's been doing for years. Yon, I don't know, says cover-ups happen a lot. Yeah, if you're being paid to cover it up, but the murder does not help. It does not help TPUSA. And people go, well, they've raised a bunch of money since. Yeah, but that pales in comparison to having your founder and leader and the best mouthpiece out there and the one with all the connections. So, you know, it makes no sense for them to not be part of the murder, but be part of the cover-up. It makes 0 sense because it doesn't benefit them to cover it up. Pierce Morgan asked Candace Owens, is Erica okay with you continuing to talk about this?
Emphatic in the CBS thing that she wanted you to stop with the conspiracy theories, or maybe you've got it all right and all of this stuff is true and it's all involving the Israelis and Egypt and Turning Point in a mass conspiracy with this young kid, Tyler Robinson, brought in, and they're all involved in this dramatic murder of Charlie Kirk. Let's just assume for a moment you're 100% right. But she did tell you publicly before you met to stop. What's clear is you're not going to stop. So is she okay with you now continuing to talk about your theories, or does she still want you to stop?
Well, she didn't ask me to stop. If that's the question that you're asking, is throughout that meeting, did
Well,
she
she
say,
did
"Can you
publicly,
stop?"
obviously. So your response to that is what?
I'm telling you that then we had a conversation and I was not asked throughout that conversation to stop. And to the contrary, I shared information that I had and I got information from them.
Right.
That helps
So
me
you will
to
carry on
focus.
You will carry on
Yes.
with the theories.
Yes. Until I feel confident of who killed Charlie Kirk, I will not stop investigating this.
And Erica is okay with you doing that?
I don't know how many other ways to answer your question other than saying she did not ask me or request for me to stop in person. And when we spoke about that moment, she felt that Barry Weiss was being Barry Weiss.
Okay, so what she's not saying is Erica didn't ask you to continue. If she didn't ask you to stop, then the inference here would be she had a meeting with you to show you the truth about certain things to get you to shut your mouth with all the lies. But she never asked me to stop. So what is Candace Owens' actual theory about what happened? She can't answer the question. Oh, I'm just asking questions. No, you don't get to make allegations about people being on the inside and having foreknowledge and people being involved in a cover-up if you don't have some kind of theory, because anybody can make anything up as far as, well, I think this or I think that. Well, if it doesn't actually congeal into a realistic, believable, possible theory, then it's all just crap on a wall.
Let's assume for a moment you're right, and that all these Egyptian planes were flying around tracking Charlie Kirk and Turning Point and Erica Kirk. Why? What is your theory?
I don't know. I don't know.
Well, what's your theory then? You must have an
my
idea.
My theory is that we should investigate everything strange that happened on that day so we can figure out what happened. The difference between me and you is that I have the courage to take the risks and ask the questions first, okay, before it's popular. You wait until it becomes popular and then you change your mind. Stop.
And she made no request of you whatsoever, Erica Kirk, in 4.5 hours. Let's assume.
Okay. Candace Owens is a brat. I'm just going to tell you right now. Whatever. Apparently she wants people to give money for her security, even though she's making $10 million a year. Her husband's worth like $250 million, something like that. But, help me with security. Let's look at some more things that she's said. She says, I've received information last night to put the final, do you hear the F word there? The final pieces together for me. I can now say with full confidence that I believe Charlie Kirk was betrayed by the leadership of Turning Point USA and some of the very people who eulogized him on stage. I'll be naming names and providing evidence for my claims. Wrong. Did she ever name names? No, but she did eviscerate the organization. Quote, and I am making a personal plea to every well-meaning person who donated to this godforsaken organization to request a refund. Well, that's inconvenient that she put that out there because she's now saying, oh, I didn't do this or I didn't do that because I didn't want to hurt the company.
I wished it was live, but I will also say I am glad that some parts warrant, because I was then able to tell them some things that I have not yet said that I wanted to fact check and get some answers on, but also to say something to them that I found out that I didn't say because I didn't want to hurt the company in a way, right? So some of this is very relevant to Charlie's research and what happened on 9/10, and some of it is not. So we got to, I guess, have a better. I wished it was live, but some parts warrant because to tell them some things that I have not yet said that I wanted to fact check and get some answers on, but also to say something to them that I found out that I didn't say because I didn't want to hurt the company in a way, right?
I didn't want to hurt the company in a way. Did you get that? I didn't want to hurt the company in a way. Well, then why did you put out this tweet that said, whoever donated to this godforsaken organization should request a refund because the people that were closest to him and at Turning Point USA betrayed him? I mean, this is soap opera bull crap. And let me tell you, when you have someone who is contradicting themselves over and over and over, it tells you all you need to know. They're not telling the truth. The truth is easy to remember. The truth is easy to defend. But when you are speaking out of both sides of your mouth, it means you're not telling it straight. And that's why. Good luck. good luck. It's the beginning of the end for Candace. I mean, her career's over. All right, let's pivot to another subject here. Islam. The threat of Islamic extremist attacks now has governments jumping into performative politics and boneheaded moves rather than trying to protect their people. Rob Schmidt on Newsmax goes into that. Take a look.
And spectacular event, and it has all been canceled because the French government can no longer keep its own people safe from potential radical Islamic terrorists that they have welcomed into their country. Think about that. France has let in so many Middle East and North African migrants that they can no longer assemble in crowds. We're watching one of the most beautiful countries and cultures in the world commit suicide, and this threat has now spread all over the West. This is not singular to Australia or France. It is everywhere now, including in Germany, where many are too scared to go to the country's many famous Christmas markets because they are now so dangerous. They're such a target for radical Islamists. Take a listen to the details from this report.
Terrorists have struck 7 European Christmas markets since 2014, 3 in France and 4 in Germany, all carried out by men of Muslim or Middle Eastern backgrounds. Authorities arrested 5 men suspected of planning attack number 8 in Germany last week. One of them, a Muslim cleric from a German mosque who urged his followers to kill as many people as possible.
Yeah. Attack number 8 foiled. There was another attack in Poland on a Christmas market foiled as well. The one in Germany, a Muslim cleric that left Egypt to move to Germany, moving to a country which tolerantly allows him to work at a mosque, to have a mosque. And what does he do when he gets to Germany and he's saved by the West? He begins indoctrinating other Muslims to murder as many Christians as they possibly can. Going to a German Christmas market at this point is a bit like playing Russian roulette. Is today the day that one of our asylum seekers living off our tax dollars is going to plow his car through this market and kill 20 of us?
Okay. So, we've already seen this play out in our own country. Okay. It's happening around the world, and you got countries canceling things because, out of fear. We got to be able to be willing to call it out. And obviously, you talk about that Afghanistan immigrant. You're talking about better vetting, which would help, right? But when people are afraid of calling it out for what it is, oh, well, that's xenophobic or racist or whatever, or Islamophobic. Well, look at what the religion teaches. I mean, again, like we're talking about with that Afghanistani immigrant who, executed a National Guard member the day before Thanksgiving and wounded the other. We could be seeing more and more of these things. And it's interesting in December how, these things tend to come out. I mean, remember New Year's Eve last year, you had that guy plow through Bourbon Street with ties to Islam. And when you have these communities that are electing Islamists, Muslims, they're going to institute things that, are consistent with Islam. And I said this about New York with Mamdani, even though he's kind of like, I don't know what he is. He's supposed to be a Muslim, and I think he is, but he's sort of saying things to get elected and sort of placating to the, gay and trans groups, but his religion is diametrically opposed to those lifestyles. But at some point, they get bold enough to enact, their cultural things into these communities. I said this on Newsmax several months ago and was called a racist by this liberal Ellis Hennigan, because I said, get ready, you're going to see, goat sacrifices in backyards, because that's exactly what was already happening. I didn't make it up. It was already happening in Hamtramck, Michigan. Recently their city voted to allow animal sacrifice for religious purposes in the city. Savage people committing savage acts there. This was done quite some time ago. Well, now, during the Christmas season, it seems to be the time for goat sacrifices.
Quote, the owning, keeping, or harboring of pigs,
horses, cows, sheep, goats, llamas, domestic fowl, outdoor rabbits is prohibited, and this section does not apply for temporary religious sacrificial purposes as permitted by law.
Our city is dirty enough. We don't want to make more dirty.
Debates raged on for at least 3 hours at Hamtramck City Hall over the new ordinance of sacrificing animals.
Really ridiculous, catastrophic resolution.
If it's not passed, then we are ready to take it to the court for the religious rights. It is constitution.
This was the second debate of the new ordinance, and there was a crowd outside of the City Hall chambers filling out cards to speak, and they were watching it on closed-circuit TV.
No, it's not safe or sane or humane because basements or kitchens or backyards are not suitable places for live animal slaughter.
Many people, including Muslim residents, were against it, citing sanitary concerns if the animals are sacrificed in a home and not in a sterile environment, especially in the tight-knit neighborhoods of Hamtramck. The ordinance that was passed on Tuesday night says religious sacrificing of animals can be done as long as it is done legally and humanely.
I think it's the best compromise. We don't want to restrict religious freedoms, and we don't want to keep it random without regulations.
Many Muslims pay a butcher to perform the religious sacrifice, but for some families, it's just not practical, says Nawar Ali with CARE Michigan.
A lot of families will typically do it in the confines of their property, like in their backyard, their garage, and again, dispose of the animal accordingly.
And we do have that full ordinance up on our website,
Okay, so there you go. I mean, you know, you want to talk about people's constitutional rights and things like that. I mean, I understand the argument, but the laws and the Constitution is written for a moral people, a virtuous people. If we are not, then you know, none of it really matters. You know, when people come here and they aren't adopting American traditions and ideology, you don't have to forget where you came from, but things you did in your land doesn't mean you should be allowed to do them here. If you want to keep doing those things, stay where you were. There's a reason why America has been great, is because we haven't done all the things that have screwed up a lot of other countries. Okay. And you see this growing, you know, leadership, Muslim leadership across the country in these various communities. And Congressman Chip Roy has officially launched, along with Representative Keith Shelf, the Sharia-Free America Caucus. Sharia law, he says, is antithetical to our Constitution, to the Declaration of Independence, and to our rule of law. Defend Western civilization. Stop Sharia law. They even have a logo. How fancy is that? Chip Roy is leaving Congress to run for Attorney General in Texas. But anyway, I think you're going to continue to see this as a problem. Charlie Kirk was warning about it as well. Mostly Penny points out what is so appropriate. Where is PETA on this one, right? It kind of looked like that gal with pink hair might be a PETA person, you know. But all right, people say that illegal immigrants who don't understand English, who can't read traffic signs, are not crashing 18-wheelers. Remember the other day we did a show and I went off on it and someone's like, where is that actually happening? I mean, every day nearly there's a new story, and here we go again. Unqualified. The man suspected of causing a massive fatal pileup in Tennessee was a Chinese national who illegally entered the U.S. from Mexico before being released by the Biden administration and given work authorization papers, according to federal officials. 54-year-old Yisong Huang reportedly could not speak English when he came to the U.S. in 2023 and obtained a commercial driver's license in the sanctuary state of New York in April 2025. Couldn't speak English, couldn't read traffic signs, but yet New York says, get behind the wheel of this big boy. It's happening, continues to happen, should have never happened, and unfortunately people died because of this Huang. You know what I'm saying? All right. One of the 5 individuals arrested in the foiled New Year's Eve terror plot allegedly set off multiple bombs throughout Los Angeles, involved a former cop, a Marine, Micah James Legnan, who is a Trantifa extremist. Again, this Trantifa group wanted to create Waco on ICE agents in New Orleans.
New Year's Eve terror plot that the FBI broke up. Big surprise, it involves Trantifa. One of the 5 arrested is a former cop and Marine, Micah James Legnan. Sources say they're a Trantifa extremist and wanted to recreate Waco on ICE agents in New Orleans. The rest of the radicals were planning an attack in LA. Zachary Page is also trans and is now begging the judge to go to a women's jail. Hopefully the judge denies that request.
Can we please finally designate this back as a mental illness and open up the asylums again? I don't know why they closed these things, but we need a place for this craziness. All right, you've got the shooting at Brown University in Rhode Island. They don't have anybody. Apparently, they found maybe some casings or some unspent ammo. They're hopeful to pull DNA off of there. But this whole investigation seems totally jacked. I mean, the fact that they don't really have any good photos they've put out, and they didn't actually solicit these from nearby neighborhoods for days. And so it's, it's not looking great. And then you have that MIT professor who was shot in his home. And now some are speculating that maybe there's a connection between those two events, but certainly unsettling that they still don't know or don't have a really good idea who did this. And, there's allegations that he yelled Allah Akbar, and the police aren't even willing to say it. Well, one witness may have said something and other witnesses said they didn't say anything. So it's like they're trying to be politically correct throughout this thing.
The DNA is widely out. The fact that the task force is working some DNA, there's some reporting that it's from shell casings found at the scene. What I can tell you from my sourcing is that I think quite significantly, they have live rounds. That is rounds that were not fired, undetonated rounds. Why does that matter? Because shell casings have enclosed a detonation. That's how bullets work, which means they often destroy evidence and they're scorched. In the case of live rounds, think about what happens there on a 9mm automatic. The perpetrator has to fat finger those rounds, bullets, into a magazine, which is the sleeve that holds them, and that gets put into the handle of the gun. That's how a semi-automatic works. So you have a perpetrator handling rounds that have not been exploded that are found at the scene. It's the same thing we saw, if you recall, in Luigi Mangione. When the gun jammed, he also had a semi-automatic. He had to rack the slide to try to get it to work and clear the jam. He did, but that ejects the live rounds. Live rounds at this scene, I think, is a hopeful sign for getting usable DNA, even if he's not in the database. Remember, they can use that familial DNA technique that we saw in the Koberger case. It gets to a cousin or something. You work back from there.
Yeah. Or they raid your 23andMe profile or something like that. So there are plenty of ways. So we'll see what happens there, but it is not, it has not been a well-run investigation. We're going back up to Ralph's comment from YouTube. Make asylums great again. That's what I'm talking about. Make asylums great again. Please give us a thumbs up on the live and repost, and make sure you're following me on X at Ike Wingate, and heart the post if you're watching on X, and repost right now. Okay, if you've watched this program and you found it useful and you think others would too, please do the very minimum and help us get the word out by hearting the post and reposting. Thank you very much for doing that. Now it's time for this.
It's time for today's Triggered Liberal.
Well, this girl got totally to the point of tears when she ran into an ice roadblock.
Hey guys, I don't typically make videos like this in this type of setting, but I just need to, and I'm so sorry that I'm choked up. I am just really overwhelmed about this, and I don't really know how to react. I go to school in Northeast Georgia, a small town. I'm not gonna say where specifically, just for safety. But I was just stopped by ICE. They were unmarked vehicles and they were blocking both sides of the road. It was
Oh my gosh.
a 2-lane road and they were blocking both sides of it.
No way.
And they were stopping every car that passed. Like, no one was getting past them. Like, everyone was getting stopped.
You mean like a roadblock?
And I was just like, hey, what is going on? And they're like, we need to see your driver's license. And I was like, okay.
You ever been through a sobriety checkpoint? They do the exact same thing, and tears won't get you out of that if you've been drinking.
So they take my driver's license, like take it and walk around my car. They're like looking my car up and down.
That's kind of what happens at a roadblock.
And they come back. And I was just like, can I ask what this is about? They're like, we're doing a safety check. There are a lot of illegals in the area and we need
Safety check. We are checking to make sure that you're not an illegal immigrant, which, by the way, a lot of women have been raped and murdered by illegal immigrants. This is actually for your safety, little whiny, crying white girl.
to make sure that, we make sure that they are eradicated.
Eradicated? How dare you say that about the legal immigrants? They're nothing but nice people who make salsa. They don't do anything bad.
And I was just like, what? Like, I was like, are you serious? Like, I was like, I'm a citizen. Like, I was born 45 minutes from here. Like, what?
They didn't try to arrest you. They didn't try to detain you. You were literally going through a roadblock checkpoint. What would she prefer? They look at her and just let her right on through? I mean, this is not the problem created by the Trump administration. If you're going to cry and complain and be distraught about deportations, then call up Joe Biden and cry in his ear.
And they were just like, yeah, it was just standard. And then they just walked on with my license. And then they came back and they were like, okay, you can go.
Okay, you can go. Oh my gosh. But wait, there's more.
And I just can't help but like feel so much horror, not only for myself, but for the people who are not of the same privilege that I am. Obviously, I am white, and
So
I know
privileged.
that gave me enormous privilege in this scenario.
Oh my gosh.
And I just, like, I cannot tolerate it. It is just so disheartening and horrifying and abhorrent to see. And I just wanted to warn people because they are now blocking roads. So, yeah, that's all.
They're now blocking roads, trying to keep us safe. Privilege, huh? Well, why don't you tell that to Rachel Morin and Laken Riley and other people who had the privilege you have of being white yet raped and murdered? Is that privilege? Why don't you cry about that? Have you ever made a video and shed a tear about them? Decimated, murdered, deceased, and gone at the hands of illegal immigrants. Look, this is just part of keeping communities safe. And you can fall victim to what the liberal media is trying to do to you, but people that come here illegally, look, I don't like that families or people that are nice people are having to go back home. But look, they've been told again and again and again, and they actually get paid if they leave voluntarily and they have the chance to come back legally. They've had every chance. And so, and then you have the risk of all these other people. I mean, like we just said, the guy driving with a license who couldn't even read English, and people dying. Where are the triggered, liberal, tearful videos for those victims?
It's time for today's Triggered Liberal.
All right, my friends, that's going to do it for today's broadcast. Thanks so much for being here. If you like the broadcast, hit the thumbs up, hit the heart. If you're watching on X, repost, share, subscribe, do all the wonderful things. If you would like to support us financially and help us cover our hard costs, you can do so using Cash App or Venmo. We have those links set up on our website where you could easily give $5, $10, $20, Cash App or Venmo at IkeReport.com. I hope you all have a Merry Christmas. I am planning to still be with you at least on a show before before Christmas Eve next week. But follow me on X to know for sure at Ike Wingate. And until then, I hope you have a great day. Remember, it's not time to back down. It's time to double down. The truth is worth it.
Rate, subscribe, and leave a review. It's how we get the word out amidst the chaos. Thanks for listening to The Ike Wingate Show.